Good morning and holy greetings to brothers and sisters, and God bless you. This is Scott Bradley. I've got coming to you today with a snippet. I'm in my home here, and I've got a snippet. I was in prayer this morning, and something that I want to share with you. First of all, want to invite you to viewing this YouTube broadcast. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel, and of course, let us know where you're viewing from. Please leave your comments in the comment section. I appreciate a thumbs up if you appreciate what I'm saying. While in prayer this morning, the Lord brought to my mind a conversation I had with a woman a number of years ago. And she was saying something to me about doing what the Lord said do. The Lord told her to do something, what she was saying to me. And then she made reference to her husband. This man don't understand. I've got to do what the Lord says do, or else the Lord is going to get me. I found then and now, think about that, the peculiarity of such a mindset. And what I mean by that is that sometimes women seem to think that the Lord is bypassing their husband to speak to them. Let me say to you, brothers and sisters, that very rarely, let me see something here, is the Lord speaking to a woman independent of her husband, particularly when it comes to family decisions, which is what this had to entail. You know, again, I'm not going to go into the depths of it. I don't remember all the depths of it. Just remember the conversation. And what happens is that sometimes women seem to feel like that they can bypass their husband and hear a word from the Lord. When in reality, the Lord is not speaking independently of your husband. Now, again, I'm saying that again, I'm re-emphasizing that, particularly if your husband is a saved man. And even in the case where he might not necessarily be a saved man, he might not necessarily be a Christian, but he's still the head of the house. Uh, the, One of the problems, and listen to me when I tell you this, again, I was in prayer about this morning. One of the problems that oftentimes happens with men and church, and particularly in the Black community, why it's difficult to get men to come to church, is because women will put their husbands in competition with the preacher. Now, let me share something with you, men and women, that we have to understand. And I think a lot of times we don't understand. And I've said this on numerous occasions that I stopped apologizing for being a man decades ago when I began to understand how God made me, the nature of a man, and many of those things, women, because they have not really understood a man or never been taught, or sometimes even raised without a father, really would not understand. Men by nature are competitive. And why are men competitive? And it goes all the way back to boyhood, not just in adulthood, but goes all the way back to boyhood. Boys, men in the manhood are competitive by nature. Who do they compete with? They compete with one another. But who are they trying to impress when they compete? They are trying to impress the females. That's why boys were always trying to impress girls by being strong, doing athletic things, trying to uh, do things that made them look masculine, strong, manly, even as boys. And then in adulthood, it doesn't change. Men by nature are competitive. It goes even to the playing of sports. Uh, um, as a preacher, I tell this now. When I was a young minister starting up in my teens, and of course, at that time, teenage boys did things to impress girls. Because again, girls, we began to discover girls, and we would do things. And I, as a preacher, be honest with you, sometime when I would get up to preach, and I knew there were pretty girls there, I was not going to flop. I didn't want to flop and do bad in front of them. So I tried to be the best preacher that I was, knowing that those girls might be impressed. Now, again, I had older women rebuke me on that and say, "Now you ought not be doing that. You ought to, you just." The term I got, you're stealing the Lord's glory. The Lord's going to get you. But I began to understand later on in my life that that's the way God made a man. He made him with a competitive nature to try to impress the female. So there was nothing really wrong with that because again, every boy who sang, he sang to impress the girls. Every ball player played to impress girls. The reason why that you have girl cheerleaders when boys are playing. In fact, I've had my share of, as a teenager falling in love with cheerleaders. like a lot of girls that were cheerleaders. But again, this is the nature of a man, and it follows him into adulthood. Secondly, men are attracted by what they see. Now, I'm saying this to you, ladies, so that you have a better perspective for what I'm about to say. Men are attracted by what they see. A man is attracted to a woman because of her physical features before he knows how smart she is. You know, I've had women tell me, well, my husband told me he was attracted to my sense of humor. He was attracted to my mind. And my response is, he might have told you that, but before he knew you had a mind, he, first of all, saw what you looked like. Now, bringing that to this point, because men are attracted by what they see, and because men, again, and this was oftentimes discouraged by the church mothers when boys would say things like, man, that girl is fine. Man, she's sharp looking. Now you all stop saying that. And there's even a movement today among feminists, which is a whole nother demonic movement. Time may not allow me to go into that. But even today, or even back then, that we were rebuked, we were scolded as young men not to say those kind of things about women. She's not a sex object. Well, that's not the way it is. Men are attracted by what they see. Now, that being said, let me bring this to this point. Sometimes, ladies, one of the reasons why you have a hard time getting your husband to come to church is because you have put your husband in competition with the preacher. When you come home and say the preacher, he really preached. Oh, the pastor, he's such a good preacher, and brag about the pastor to your husband. After a while, he may let that go in short term, but after a while, he's going to wonder, why does this man have such a positive influence on my wife? Or you begin to compliment him how well he dresses, and how smart he is, and other various things. The brothers now, your husband's now no longer going to look at the pastor as a pastor. By his nature, the way God made us, we're going to see him as another man who now has influence over my wife, and he's going to resent it. And this is why oftentimes you can't get your husband to come to church. Or sometimes he'll even talk about the pastor, say things about him he's never even met him. Because again, in his mind, well, he ought not think that way. Well, we do think that way. We do think that way. That is and I'm telling you, as a man of God, as a minister of the gospel, if my wife continues to come to brag to me about another man, whether he be a preacher, a teacher, whatever, I'm going to resent that. Because again, she's giving more attention to him than in my mind she's giving to me. And every man wants his wife to pay attention to him. Sisters, your husband, whether he be saved or not, whether he knows the Lord or not, he needs your affirmation. He needs your comfort. He needs your promotion. He needs that from you. If you keep giving it to the pastor, he's going to resent the pastor. Now, as I started to say before from the onset, sometime when the pastor will tell you, we need thus or so, we need thus so, he'll say, and a pastor really should not do this. And I, as a pastor, try to stay away from this, telling people what they must do, and you run home and tell your husband, the pastor said, we got to do this and we got to do that. Well, that's just going to make him resent the pastor more. Who is he to tell my wife what to do? Now, some of you all are listening to this, ladies, are saying, he shouldn't feel that way. I'm telling you, we do. And I'm including myself. We do feel that way because of the nature that God has put in us. I may be the only one to tell you this, but you cannot put your husband in competition with the pastor. And I want to say that as a pastor, I'm inviting brothers to my church because, again, I want to make you feel your worth as a man. I'm not going to try to manipulate your wife. That's wrong. I'm not going to try to con your wife into doing stuff for me. That's wrong. And I'll tell you a story in my closing here. A number of years ago, I had a secretary. Her name was Christine. And anytime I called her house, if I had to get something for secretary reasons, church reasons, and her husband answered the phone, I would engage her husband. Hey, brother, how you doing? This is Pastor Bradley. And I'd start talking to him before I even asked for permission to speak. I start talking. Hey man, what you think of the baseball team? What you think of the game, man? How about this? How you doing? Nice. What? I would engage him in conversation. And then after I engaged him comfortably in conversation, I would say, may I speak to your wife? I'd ask permission. I didn't just pick up the phone and say, yeah, this is Pastor. Let me speak to Christine. Never, never. In fact, I've had people call me and say, let me speak to your wife. And I say, who is this? I mean, really, because somebody with an authoritative voice wants to speak to my wife, you have to go through me. That's the way I, as a man, feel. And that, I believe, is right. And after a while, that brother started coming to church. He started participating. After a while, they moved, but he was active in the church. Why? Because I made him feel his worth as a man. I'm not after your wife. I don't want to manipulate your wife. I don't want to use your wife to service me. A man is a man. Ladies, the man is the head of your house. The man is the priest of your home. And when you take the mindset that I got to do what the Lord said do, or the Lord's going to get me, no, he's not. If anything, the Lord will speak to your husband concerning what he spoke to you about that you say he did. In many cases, the Lord has not spoken to you. You've gone out of emotion. You've gone because other people do it, or various reasons. I'm not going to go into all those reasons right here now. But again, I want you to understand, do not put your husband in competition with your pastor. Love your husband. Compliment your husband. Make your husband feel his worth. And you'd be surprised how quick he'll start to come to church and participate. And don't get under one of them pastors that's going to start domineering and belittling a man. Because, brother pastor, when you sit there and belittle a man in front of his family, you're wrong. And you will not get a positive response. One of the blessings about the man of God I served under for a number of years, he always made every man feel his worth as a man. He never belittled us. He never berated us in front of people. He never rebuked us and cut us down in front of the whole church. And if there was an issue, he dealt with us man to man in private. And as a result, even among the brothers, there was a camaraderie because every man was made to feel his worth. God bless you. Hope you got something out of that. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. We need your subscriptions to help build this channel. Until next time, this is Scott Bradley saying, God bless you. Thank God for you. We'll talk to you again real soon. Amen.